right, good morning, TNT. Welcome back. Time to share a cup with my very, very special guest to this Foodie Friday morning. As I told you at the top, almost more than 10 years ago, when my wife and I decided to start trinicooks.com, the story really is, and I will tell it to Chris, that my wife came to me and said, there are no local recipes online, and she was searching online and couldn't find a local recipe. After we started trinicooks.com and we got involved in doing recipes online, we encountered CaribbeanPot.com. And that's when we were introduced to what Chris De La Rosa was doing. And he really was part of our inspiration to keep on the track. So we say, hey, there's a Trini doing something out there and representing our food. So Chris, you were part of our inspiration to continue trinicooks.com almost 10, 12 years ago.
It's refreshing to hear that because for most part, the sort of emails and stuff that I get, it's usually, well, I'm following a recipe that my aunt used to do. And along that sort of line, usually I married a person from the Caribbean and now I'm able to cook for that person, be it a male or a female. But to hear someone say that you're part of what they're doing as well from an inspiration standpoint, it is refreshing.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Chris De La Rosa this morning. And Chris, for those of you who may not know, I know a lot of you follow him here back at home here in Trinidad and Tobago, but a South boy.
That's correct.
That found his way in Canada and needed a desire to continue eating local Caribbean food.
It was difficult.
It was difficult. And he developed CaribbeanPot.com. He's one of the local food bloggers out there, one of the more successful food bloggers out there. Chris, you have, take us back. You're a South boy. Where you originally from here in Trinidad?
I was born, San Fernando General, but I grew up in Guaracara, which is on the way to Navid. That's the easiest way to tell people. So if you're leaving San Fernando, you're going to Navid, you got to go through Guaracara.
Right, yes.
You tell people you're from Guaracara, and they're like, by the cricket ground.
Yes,
no,
Guaracara Park.
We're far. We're far from, the river passes there.
Right.
Maybe that's how it got its name, right? But grew up, born and grew there, but I went to school in San Fernando all of my life. Into my high school years, I went to ModSec, did my GCE and CXC and stuff like that. And then my sister and my cousins were living in Canada. They were going to school, university over there.
Right.
Went for a visit, and mommy and daddy decided maybe it's best if you stay there. The economy wasn't doing all that great.
Right.
And one thing led to the other, and I remained there. I went to school there and stuff like that, and started my life over there.
Started your life in Canada.
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah.
It was tough though, very tough as a new immigrant back then. Probably same now, but...
Yeah. What led you to food? Have you always been interested in food? Were you ever working restaurants? What led you to food?
I would mimic my mom quite a bit. My job, and the big meal of the week here in the Caribbean, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, is Sunday lunch. Saturday she would be seasoning the chicken or the pork or whatever. And my job was to go into the backyard. We had a kitchen garden and get the fine leaf thyme and the ginger and the hot pepper and the pimento and stuff like that. So I became part of the whole thing. I remember when my mom would season the chicken, she would call us over, me and my brother and sisters, to smell it. I love the smell of that freshly seasoned whatever it is, right? So I grew up around that. My aunts, my uncles, everybody can cook. So when someone says to me, I can't cook, it's hard for me to conceptualize. What do you mean you cannot cook? It's supposed to be natural, right?
Everybody should be able to cook.
Yeah, man. I would mimic my aunt as well in Canada when I was there, and out of necessity, I started cooking. The problem is back then, we couldn't even get an avocado in Canada back then. Now we're getting just about everything, from dasheen to Edos to you name it, we can get it. Sometimes a little bit challenging, but we can still get it. And this is why at the start I said it was difficult, because from a food standpoint, you grow up eating so much. We have an abundance of food here, and then you move there and you're challenged to find stuff that you like and stuff like that. One of the jokes I have when I tell people is back when I first moved to Canada, the grocery stores were giving away oxtail, 10 cents, 15 cents a pound. It is almost $9 to $12 a pound now, and I blame immigrants for that, man.
Because we started using running on the oxtail.
Exactly. So that is the whole journey. Now, between then, I did work for one of the biggest catering companies. I'm from Hamilton, which is about an hour west of Toronto. We have about 500,000 people there, and one of the biggest catering companies there, in-house, I started working there part-time. I was going to university and doing the part-time thing. And I learned quite a bit about the back of the house. And then I started working in the front serving. So I know both the front of the house as well as the back of the house. And that is where I kind of learned some of the techniques. So like it was an Italian establishment. So a lot of the pasta making and sauce making and stuff like that, I learned there. But traditional Caribbean stuff, I learned from my parents, my grandparents. And my daughters, they always tell me, Dad, we know when you're homesick, you make pilau. That is my comfort food, you know what I mean? I still try to maintain these soup Saturdays as we would make a soup and stuff like that. But the whole journey, and one of the other things I tell people as well is, if you're in the food scene and you really want to be in the food scene, you want to experiment and explore, travel. I've had the opportunity to travel to a number of the different islands. And as we were talking about off camera, there's so much that from the French-speaking Caribbean, the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, there's so much more that I can explore, we can explore, because you guys are doing pretty much the same thing. We're complementing what we're doing because we're showing the world, it's time to listen to us. Our region has a lot to offer. And while you can't walk into the typical bookstore in North America and find anything on Caribbean food, as you would find an Italian or Thai or Indian cuisine and stuff like that, we're taking that and we're taking it online now, and so people can access it via a mobile device, via your desktop computer.
But take me back to that point now, just quickly before we go to our first break. When did it hit you in your mind? Your love for food, of course, yes, but okay, CaribbeanPot.com. When was that born in your mind and you decided, let me take my love for food and share it with the wider society?
So I created a website, CaribbeanPot.com. This is between 2008 and 2009, I think it was. And I was like, I'm going to start documenting these recipes because we both know to this day, we don't document things written. It's very verbal. I call my mom, it's still a pinch of this.
A little bit of that.
Mom, you're not helping me. So it's still an experiment going on kind of thing. So I started documenting it in 3 ways. One, the full list of ingredients, step-by-step instructions with measuring like spoons and teaspoons and cups and whatever else, and pictures along the way. I wanted to dumb it down as best as I can for them. So that is where the whole thing behind Caribbean Pot came along, a means of documenting recipes that my daughters grew up with, that wherever they ended up in the world, they can log on to the website and cook that a simple thing. Like right now, my daughter she's hooked on a simple thing like how we do fried corned beef and rice. Simple thing like that. But here's the joke though, Joel. How many times do they actually use the website? Maybe 0.
Because they could come, Daddy.
Exactly. So they left and they went to university. One daughter was down in London. She was at Western. The other one was at Niagara College. How many containers of frozen food were we taking every weekend when we visited them? I was like, make use of the website.
Yes, please.
After 6 months of launching CaribbeanPod.com, I started having about 200,000 people visit a month. Because it was a new thing for most people. Or it is a mean of reconnecting with recipes and stuff like that people grew up with. So you look at the big urban centers like in New York, or London, UK, or Miami, all those places where there's a huge immigrant population from the Caribbean. That's where I see a lot of my visitors coming from.
Millions of followers, CaribbeanPot.com. One of the first, I think, Caribbean local themed websites that was around back in 2007, 2008. You all started that dream. Chris and I will be heading into the kitchen next, folks. And Chris is doing a tomato choker rice soup.
Correct.
So he's bringing that Caribbean flavor back. Tomato choker, we all know it, but he's making a soup. When we come back, Caribbean.pot, CaribbeanPot.com. The man they call Chris De La Rosa coming back with us in the kitchen next, and we continue. We whip up a little recipe for you to follow, and you can check it on his website. Come on back, TNT. Cup of Joe, Foodie Fridays here. We're liming with Chris De La Rosa.
All went well there?